Now, moving on to the second part of the Power of Two, did you know that our career talk for our CCS grades 10 and 12 will be on its fifth annual this time?
Oh, wow! That's remarkable! Grabe, talaga ba? So, let's get started. Hello, grades 10 and 12 of Concepcion Catholic School, their teacher advisors, other faculty, Sister Lorna and Sister Donna of the Order of Preachers. It is a wonderful day to be of service to all of you as former students of our beloved alma mater. I am your Aching Sheila of batch 2002, and currently I am residing here in Maykawayan City, Bulacan. I'm coming from the HR profession. I am currently a training manager in a multinational company, a food and beverage company. While my co-MC here is a good friend and batchmate of mine, your Kuya Brian, who's based in Baguio City. Perhaps he can, talk a little bit more about himself here.
Sure, thank you so much for that, Sheila. Well, I'm your Kuya Brian who works here in St. Louis University as an assistant professor for quite some time now. I've been teaching, or I'm into social sciences, particularly I teach political science and some other subjects in the graduate schools or the graduate studies, particularly organizational behavior, financial management, and all other business-related subjects or courses. Now, it was only about 20 years ago that Sheila and I were in your shoes, just about to graduate in high school. We all know that mixed feelings of excitement and uncertainty. Well, excited because finally, after years and years in the four corners of our school, we will soon be graduating. But also, we cannot hide from the fact that we were scared too, because we were not certain as to what was going to happen after we leave these familiar halls of our school.
So grades 10 and 12, Kuya Brian and I will certainly assure you that the best approach is to take one day at a time. Huwag matakot, just be yourself. You are in the best moment of your life. So just enjoy it. Have faith and determination. Trust on the knowledge that you have learned from our school, no? Concepcion Catholic School.
For one, it took us to places that we have not imagined when we were in your shoes. College was never easy. Career after that was challenging. And personal lives, like starting a family on your own, can be equally challenging as well. But definitely fulfilling and worth it. Every minute.
I agree with you. Fulfilling every minute. So just enjoy it. Today, as your achis and koyas, we want to share some tips to all of you. They may not be, the exact answers to your questions and your curiosity, but they will for sure guide you in the right direction and perhaps give you options.
Having options are the best. I wish we had this kind of career talk during our time. It could have made our lives easier for us to pick the right career.
Yeah, if we only can go back to 20 years ago, Brian, no? These career talks would have been really helpful. And hearing from different alumni professionals who unselfishly volunteered their time and effort today is for sure all of you current students can learn a lot from.
So, without further ado, let us begin our annual career talk for our CCS grades 10 and 12. To start with, let us tell our young students first about our Alumni Association, which you yourselves will eventually be a member.
Who we are as Alumni Association. Grades 10 and 12, I'll keep my short presentation simple by addressing the simple questions of who, how, what, and so let's jump right into it. Who? We are officially called CCS HSA LFA Alumni Association. We are a legal non-profit organization first established in Los Angeles, California, USA. We have a 501 copyright 3 status, meaning that we are a legit non-profit organization. We are working to do the same actually in the Philippines. We are managed by the alumni board that consists of the president, Mr. Roland Santos of batch 1976, our VP for the US, Mr. J. Robert Vicencio of batch 1977, Our VP here in the Philippines, Miss Anne Dominic Solis Tuazon of Batch 2001. Our Treasurer, Miss Lucy Tuazon Castro of Batch 1974. And our Secretary, Miss Monica De Jesus Amromin of Batch 1975. We do have our advisors. We have Miss Maribel Vicencio of Batch 1973 and Mr. Rico Dado of Batch 1982. Our annual Grand Alumni Homecoming, or AGA, is every February. It is managed by the Grand Marshals, about 3 to 4 alumni volunteers that are recommended by their batchmates and or their fellow alumni yearly. This year's Grand Marshals are Miss Ferry Hipolito Romero of Batch 1978, and because of COVID lockdowns, last AGA4, we did it all virtual. And at that time, our Grand Marshals will automatically carry them forward until our next live celebration, and hopefully in AGAH5's. So our Grand Marshals are Mr. Jerry Tayag of Batch 1978, Mr. Butch Castro, also of Batch 1978, Mr. Ron Buan of Batch 1988, and Rowie Iturraldebie of Batch 1991. Now we go with the what. Our association has two undertakings, the Power of Two and the Past Forward. The Power of Two handles the annual career talk for CCS grades 10 and 12 and the annual book Read and Reflect, a first for this year for the elementary students focusing on character building. And lastly, our alumni student mentoring. The Past Forward undertaking has 4 pillar goals. We have scholarships, infrastructure, arts and skills training, and teacher retirement assistance. And lastly now, let's address the how. Well, how can you get involved in the association? Well, we have various ways. The first one is that we'd like that you become a member of the Facebook page. We do have a Facebook page. You'll have to find it in Facebook. The name is The Official CCS-HSA-LFA Alumni Association. We do update that page, what's going on in the association. It's a place for you to get to know who else are our alumni in our alma mater. It's a place to connect and network with one another. So I'd like to invite you to do just that now. Would you want to go into your Facebook page now, to our Facebook page now, and just hit the like button and maybe do some comments and just interact with us? You have your phones with you, I assume, so please turn them on, go to this Facebook page and ask to be a member. Second is that you can be a volunteer speaker for the annual Power of Two career talk for grades 10 and 12, and for the annual book Read and Reflect for elementary students. The third one is that you can actually also do volunteering, and that is to become a volunteer Grand Marshal for the annual Grand Alumni Homecoming, or AGA. So as you know, we have different Grand Marshals every year. So pwede rin kayo mag-volunteer there. The fourth one is that you can actually volunteer for specific alumni committees. We do have a lot of committees, and everyone is invited to join and participate. The fifth one is that you can become an alumni, sponsor, or donor in our AGA souvenir program or with other specific projects that we have in the association. And the sixth one is that you can be part of the jubilarian celebrants during AGA. We do celebrate them, like for those that are celebrating their 25th year, their 30th year, their 35th year, 40th, 45, 50, 50th, 55th, 60th, and 65th Jubilee years. No? And as attendees during our AGAs. So grades 10 and 12, as soon as you graduate, how do you want to be involved? I ask you, when it's your turn, where do you want to volunteer? Students, now that you know about who we are, Brian will share with us how to understand your personality and also give you a great analogy between, trees and life career.
Thank you so much, Sheila. Hi again, grades 10 and 12. I want to help you guys understand your own personality. But why? Because before you can define who you are, you must understand your own personality. Knowing your personality can help you discover what you want to do in life and be happy. So, are you good-natured, friendly, sociable, lovable, or willing to accept the wishes, decisions of others, or amiable for short? Or are you expressive vocal? Are you analytical logical? Or are you an inspirational force that transmits motion to others? Then you are a turtle. If you are amiable, and you will be happier as a nurse, doctor, teacher, or librarian. A monkey, if you are expressive, you'll be great as a lawyer or politician. Perhaps a giraffe. If you are the analytical type, you'll be perfect as an engineer or an accountant. And finally, a lion. If you enjoy leading, you'll fit for sure as a CEO, president, someone to spearhead a nonprofit cause, or as a town mayor or a provincial governor. So, grades 10 and 12, which animal personality do you think fits your current traits? Next, let me present to you an analogy about life career tree. As we all know, there are 3 life sequences. First, we've got the parts of a tree. The first one is the seed, second is the trunk, and third will be the branches and leaves. Now, let's relate these to our lives. Let's start with the seed. Ask yourself, what wakes you up excited in the morning? So if you guys could remember, may commercial tayo, di ba? Paano or kanino ka gumigising or kanino ka bumabangon, di ba? So what is it that you are passionate about? How does it relate to your senior high school strand? Now, the trunk. How do you get ready to pursue your passion? Well, start with choosing the right senior high school strand. Then, you can pick the college degree you want to pursue. After you graduate from college, you get your internships and training, maybe take the licensure exams, or perhaps pursue postgraduate studies. And finally, the branches and leaves. How do trees branch out and grow lush leaves? Well, through the years of experience, pursue field of expertise, climb corporate ladder, or perhaps try new ventures. Now ask yourself, what is your seed, your passion? What you have decided to pursue grade 10 for your senior high school strand and grade 12 perhaps for college.
Thank you so much, Brian, for that very wonderful presentation. I hope that our grades 10 and 12 here really picked up very good insights on how and what they want to really pursue, no, as a field of expertise or interest in their strands and for when they pursue college. Now, moving on to the heart of our career talk, our speakers today will be grouped by senior high school strands that are currently offered at CCS. So, how many strands are currently offered by our school, Brian? Can you, elaborate more on that?
That's a great question, because being part of the academe for quite some time now, I may not be part of this of the secondary school. I'm actually currently teaching in the tertiary level. I'm pretty much aware of what the strands are that are being offered in most high schools in the Philippines. But in the case of CCS, there are currently 3 strands, Sheila. So we will start with our speakers in this order. First, the ABM strand, which stands for Accountancy, Business, and Management. Second, the HUM strand, which stands for Humanities and Social Sciences. And finally, the STEM strand, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics. So, without further ado, let's hear it from our alumni volunteers.
Hello, my name is Catherine David. I'm a graduate of Concepcion Catholic School back in 2002, and I'm here today to talk about finance and accounting. So just a bit of introduction about myself. Back in the day, I was asked what I want to be when I grew up. Now, I have a lot of interest. Some of these are actually in the opposite spectrums. But the one that stuck with me are one, I wanted to become a lawyer, mainly because of the movies and TV shows I've watched when I was younger. They kind of romanticize the idea of what it's like to become a lawyer. They made it sound like it's so exciting and so dramatic. So, in short, I was attracted to that idea. The other one is I wanted to become an astronomer because I wanted to study deep space. I wanted to study the stars, the planets. Unfortunately, there's no school offering astronomy in the Philippines. And the other one is I wanted to become a hacker, but this is short of becoming a criminal, although there are legal ways on hacking, but I'm not gonna deep dive into that. In short, I did not become a hacker. So how did I end up becoming an accountant or taking up accountancy? Simple answer is because of my father. My father informed me that accountancy is a good pre-law course because some of the subjects in accountancy are also in law. And the other one is there is a lot of opportunities, job opportunities after college when you take up accountancy. So easy decision, technically. Now, let me talk about my career journey. I'm sharing this in the hopes that you will be inspired with the ups and downs that I've had. So as I mentioned earlier, I graduated from CONCS back in March 2002 and I took up BS Accountancy in Tarlac State University. Now, I remember during my first few weeks, I actually hated accounting because it's a lot of numbers. And unfortunately, during my first sem, I got dropped out from BS Accountancy and I landed in the Finance and Management Accounting. So, what does it mean? It means I cannot take the CPA exam anymore. That was a bit disappointing. And fortunately, PSU opened the course again by offering a qualifying exam. So it gave us an opportunity to go back to BSA. And I took the exam, but this time I was more prepared and more invested in the accounting. I finally fell in love with accounting after 2 years in college. And fortunately, I passed because I guess I was more well prepared for it. Now, after 1 year, I failed a major subject and I had to take up summer class for that. And after that, finally, in April 2006, I graduated BS Accountancy. So that's definitely an achievement. After that, I wanted to take up the CPA licensure exam because that's basically one sure way of climbing up the ladder. Unfortunately, my family is not well off and I've calculated that the expenses, including board and lodging plus the enrollment fees, to enroll in a review school in Manila would be around 50,000 to 100,000. And I don't have that kind of money. So what I did is I started working in a local bank here in Concepcion. I started as a clerk, and that means I have to do data entry from paperwork to the accounting software. So back then it was an in-house accounting software. The pay wasn't that high, but I was saving up money and I was fortunate that there was what you call paluwagan. So we were pulling money. So I combined that with my savings and I managed to enroll myself in CPAR, a CPA review school in Manila. So I took up weekend classes. So it means I have to work from Mondays to Friday and then go to Manila on Saturday morning, take up the review class from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., both on Saturdays and Sundays, and then go home on Sunday evening back in Concepcion and then work again. So I had to pay 250 pesos for an overnight rent in an apartment in Manila. So there are some apartments that offer that. Now, I was working at the same time reviewing. So I took the exam in May 2007 and I did not pass the exam. So in this experience, my neighbors, my relatives, my family all know that I took the exam. And there's this idea that they're now all looking down on me because I failed the exam. So for a while, I had that fear of taking the exam again because in accounting, you can take the exam countless of times. But again, there's the element of finances and also the fear of embarrassment. So I worked from Concepcion, I moved to Makati and I started saving again. So I spoke with a couple of friends and they actually supported me and encouraged me to take the exam. So I did the same drill, save up money, enroll in weekend classes, and then work. But I think it was 3 months or 4 months before the actual exam. I spoke with my parents and I've asked them if they can lend me the travel allowance because I want to quit my job and focus on studying. And fortunately, they agreed. So I stayed at home reviewing every weekdays, and then I go to Manila every weekends. And this time, I passed the exam. So it's one of the best feelings I ever had in my entire life, and still up to this day, I still remember that feeling from time to time. So after that, when I passed the exam, I worked for San Miguel as a financial analyst. So this is still an entry level job. But the good thing with big companies, blue chip companies, you can actually shift around. You can move from San Miguel, you can move to San Miguel Pure Foods, San Miguel Meals. So there's actually a lot of internal job openings. But then, with local companies, they're a bit behind in terms of technology, and there's a lot of paperwork going on. So after that, the company decided to move from Ortigas to Pasig, and it's really far from where I was living back then. And back then, I wasn't earning much. So I had to share the rent expense with a couple of my friends. So moving to a different home or different house is a no-go. So I stayed in Makati and I found a job and I discovered BPO. So back then, when you say BPO, I usually think they're all call center agents. Nothing wrong with that. But I didn't know that there's actually a lot of back office services. So they actually offer accounting services to their clients. So I landed Microsoft as a client, which is a good thing because I've learned a lot about Microsoft Excel and macros. Then after 2 years, I was promoted as a senior analyst. It was the first time I climbed up the ladder, and it was also the first time I started thinking about my career and where I want to bring myself in the next 2 years. After that, there was an opening. It was around reports. Back then, when you say big data, data science, these are relatively unknown. But now everyone knows what these are. So I decided to take on the challenge and do reports. I learned about Power BI, Tableau. Then after that, I was promoted as a manager. With this role, I actually declined this at first. I didn't want to become a manager because I had this fear of failure because I'm not experienced. I did not get proper training. But a lot of my friends told me that it's a wasted opportunity if I don't take it. And no manager starts experience. So they all have to have some sort of an on-hand experience. So I accepted the role, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made because if I step down from that opportunity, I think I would still be in the entry-level spectrum. So after that, I left Accenture due to personal reasons, and then I joined another company, which is called Bluestone. It's a smaller company compared to the previous companies I've joined. And I am staying here because of the people. So if you are working for 10 to 15 years, it's not about the salary anymore or about the role. It's actually more about the people you're working with. So I actually enjoy the company, and they're more generous with their employees. They actually offer trainings and other opportunities, even for people who have no experience. So I was staying in Bluestone for quite a while now. And in my current role as a treasury analyst, so you might be wondering why from a manager I shifted to an individual contributor role. First and foremost, it's actually a promotion. Second, the role is more stressful and more difficult in function compared to all the roles that I've managed before. Because when you're in the treasury department, we're actually responsible in making sure that the company has money or has funds. So the stress level is definitely higher compared to the other roles, and there's more heat in this job. So it's definitely a promotion. So that's the summary of my career journey. And as you can see, I've had a lot of ups and downs. And main takeaways here are, don't be afraid of failure. If you fail, it's not the end of the world. You may think that other people are looking down on you. That's not true. It's just all in your mind. And learn from your mistakes and move forward. That's it. That's the only way to go. Now, let's talk about finance and accountancy. Accountancy, well, everyone knows that when you're an accountant, you are required to demonstrate a higher or a high level of competence and integrity. But all professions actually have a code of ethics, are required to demonstrate this. So what sets accountancy apart from everything else? Accountancy is not just math. You don't actually have to be good in algebra, although maybe basic algebra would be good. But you're not expected to be so good in calculus, trigonometry, because that's not what accounting is all about. Accounting has an element of problem solving, has an element of investigation and analysis, because this reconciliation, this analysis function that you're doing is being used in making business decisions, informed business decisions, not just impulsive decisions. So there's an element of it's not just addition and subtraction, because if that's just addition subtraction, even undergrads can do it. So that's what accountancy is. It's not being good in algebra. It's actually being good in analysis. Number two, it doesn't end with a CPA board exam. Accounting is a continuous learning experience. When you get your license, we're actually required to renew our license every 3 years. And one of the requirements is we have to have CPD unit. CPD stands for continuing professional development. We have to be updated with the changes in the accounting field, the rules and the regulations. Also, aside from the CPA exam, there are other certifications available. So there are, for example, the Chartered Financial Analyst. This is actually one of the most difficult exams in the world. And most of these certifications are comparable to getting a master's degree. And if you have these certifications, you're definitely in the top 10% when you're applying for a job. It's already a given that accountancy is high on demand. All companies need accountants, and if the job is high on demand, you can expect that the salary is favorable and higher compared to the other positions. And lastly, it is changing and evolving. When we say changing and evolving, there's always changes happening. Even after you graduate, after you take the board exam, there's always new rules and regulations getting implemented. For example, the income tax rate changes once in a while. And also, we're also moving towards technological advancement. So before, accountants record their journal entries on a piece of paper. It's a physical book technically. But now we're moving on a blockchain technology. We're moving to spreadsheets. Well, spreadsheets not so much, but more on accounting softwares. and big data. So there's a lot of data ready for analysis, and accountants are also in that direction. So accountancy is not constant, it's also changing. Now, what are the cons of accountancy? Real talk, sedentary work environment. We spend long hours seated in front of our computers or laptops. Typical schedule of accountants is 8 to 5 or 9 to 6, or if you're working for a multinational company like me, I had jobs where I have to work graveyard shift. Right now I'm working 3 a.m. to 12 p.m. So the problem with this one is if you're sedentary, you 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 tend to gain weight and have some health complications because you're not moving around. So it's up to us to actually counter this sedentary work environment. But take note, there are also a lot of travel opportunities when you're an accountant, especially when you're an auditor. External auditors, they get to travel domestic and abroad because they can send out. They have to go to their clients' branches or offices to audit their clients. Now, it could be a pro. It could be a pro. It could be a con for you if you like traveling or if you like sedentary. So it actually depends on your preference. The work reputation is boring. This is true. If you're an accountant, they always think that you're just dealing with numbers. You're a boring person. Your work is boring. Again, what is your idea of boring? If analysis is boring for you, then definitely it's boring. But for accountants, analysis is not boring. So it all depends on, again, your preference. And it's not true that we're just dealing with numbers. We also work with people. We collaborate with the different teams and different departments. And we also know how to have fun. Lastly, it is sometimes stressful. This is true. We work long hours, especially when we're working on multiple projects at the same time. Tight deadlines. When they say the deadline is tomorrow, you have to finish this tomorrow. There's also busy schedules or busy season. For example, auditors. Tax season is really busy for them. For us, treasury, we're not so busy during holidays, but we're busy during month ends or during the times when we're making bills. So it depends on your role. And I just want to mention, all jobs have an element of stress. All jobs have an element of boredom, and all jobs have an element of being sedentary. So it all boils down to your preference and how to counter these cons. So it's not just in accounting; it's also happening in the different professions. Now, in terms of education, I divided this between my time and current. So curriculum, my time it was 4 years. Currently, it's now 5 years. So what's the extra year? Remember, after I graduate, I enrolled in a review school in Manila. Now, schools are offering 1 year, 1 year period to review for the exam. If you're not satisfied with that 1 year, you can opt to review or enroll in another review school after your graduation. Next one is CPA coverage. Back in my day, it's 8 subjects. Now it's 6 subjects. I'll discuss that later on. Exam dates, it's May and October. Now it depends on PRC. They've actually rescheduled the one in May to October and then October to December. So I'm not sure if they're going to stick with the new schedule or go back to May and October after the pandemic. Passing rate, 27%. This is already low. Currently, May is lower, 15%. I think there were 300 people who passed, approximately 300 plus. This is low compared to the previous years. I think the passers have also dwindled down because of the pandemic. But again, it all depends on your study habits. It depends on how well prepared you are. So I'll discuss some tips later on. And then CPD units. when we talk about CPD units, it's 120 units, 120 units currently. 120 is actually 120 hours. We are required to provide or study for 120. Now, there are two ways to do this. One is through classroom training. You actually have to go physically to a specific place and study whatever subject you are enrolled in. But now, because of the pandemic, a lot of CPD providers have opted to go online. So that's the one I did when I renewed my license earlier. So I took online CPD classes. It's much cheaper compared to the classroom training. Exam coverage. There are 6 subjects. Now, back in my time, this one, regulatory framework for business, this is actually business law. In my time, taxation and business law are combined. Now they've separated them. And then we also had auditing theory, which is now combined with auditing. These areas, when you're studying in college, you don't just take them in one go. These are actually divided into different subjects that you have to take over the next 4 or 5 years. So most of this, if not all, are interrelated. What you know in financial accounting and reporting is actually applicable to management advisory services and auditing. So it's really important that all your accounting subjects, you take them seriously, even if it's not in the exam coverage. Because one way or another, you will encounter them in one of these subjects. Study tips. 1. Build good study habits. It doesn't matter if you're studying in the morning or in the evening or how long you're studying. What matters is the intensity of your study sessions. If you're someone who study for 30 minutes and then check your Facebook or TikTok or YouTube every once in a while, you're not actually studying intensely, you're distracted. So how do you study intensely? How do you get that laser focus in studying? And what's the benefit of studying intensely? First and foremost, if you're studying intensely or if you're deep diving into the lessons that you have, you're going to spend less time in studying and more time in doing the personal things that you want. How do you accomplish this? If you're easily distracted, it would be helpful to use earphones, listen to music if that's your preference, or keep your cell phones out of your sight. So out of your sight, out of your mind, lock them in your drawer, put them somewhere where you cannot see them so that you would have your entire focus in studying. Next one is learn the terminology. So in accounting, if you don't know what asset means, what liability and equity means, you're doomed because these terms will be used in your next lessons and next subjects. So if you don't understand or know what these jargons are, you're definitely setting yourself for failure. Next is understand the concepts. It's important to know the hows and whys and not just memorize the formulas and the definitions. Because if you understand this, it is much easier to retain. And in my experience, I had professors who would not accept my answer unless there's a if there's a formula or calculation attached to that answer, so that they can ensure that you actually know the concepts, that you actually understand how to apply them or how to derive the answer. Next is solve your textbook problems first. What does this mean? We're all resourceful. The more information we have, the more books we have, the more review materials we have, the better we think. But we're actually getting overwhelmed because we have all of this information to process, all of these problems to solve. So my suggestion is your textbook have questions at the end of each lesson. Solve that first. When you're done, that's the time you move on to your next resource or next review materials. Next one is don't wait. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for New Year. Don't wait for the first day of the month or the first day of the week. Don't wait to apply this. Apply them now, because if you have good study habits, if you build this into a good routine, there's a good chance that you're going to bring this even when you're working, and it wouldn't be too bad if you start earlier because you reap the benefits much sooner. And lastly, I did not put this here. It's important that you have enough rest. When we say enough rest, good quality rest. You're not lying on your bed, checking on your Facebook, checking on your social media apps, because a well-rested brain retains more information quicker and better the next day. So it compartmentalizes, it unlearns the stuff you don't need. So that's important because you cannot learn the concepts as quickly as someone who is well rested than someone who is sleepy or is feeling ill. So that's the last bit. Hopefully you learned something. Did not really deep dive into accounting, but I was more interested in giving you inspiration, hopefully, and tips in studying. So anyways, that's all. Thank you. Bye-bye.